Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another showing of the Atheist Experience. I'm your host today, Ashley Perrien, and my co-host this week, Matt.
Glad to be here.
Thank you very much for coming on and helping out here. Co-host was supposed to be Jeff D, but apparently something came up and he was unable to make it at the last, so we have a fill-in. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Again, this is the Atheist Experience. We're being hosted by, or sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings every Sunday at Chris and City Beignets at the, it's on 6th Street, a couple blocks west of Lamar. Those start at 11:30 and go until about 2 o'clock. It's open to any atheist-friendly people. You don't need to be a specific member of the group or anything like that. So again, that is every Sunday at 11:30, save the third Sunday of the month when we have our lecture series at the Austin History Center on 9th and Guadalupe. Now, next Sunday is the third Sunday of March. It's the 20th. And we're going to be having a discussion. It's actually, let me see if I can remember who's on this. But it's basically talking about debating. When you're debating with theists, here are things that you can use, certain things to watch out for, ways to go about it, stuff like that. It's put on by, again, us. The people who are on it, Jeff D., Dennis Lubay, Russell Glasser, those three are the ones who do the nonprofits. And also Linda Raymond. Three members of the group have been members for quite a while now. All four have a lot of experience on TV and on the radio and on, in writing message boards, email, and stuff like that, and debating. So it should be an excellent roundup of just some strategies to use and things to watch out for. So that's going to be Sunday at the Austin History Center, 9th and Guadalupe at 12:30 until 2 o'clock. Next Sunday being March 20th, if you're watching a repeat. Okay, other regular things that we do. We have Monday night Godless Gamers. We have Thursday night Atheist Happy Hour at Antonio's Text. Every now and then we'll have a potluck on Saturday, which it would be this upcoming Saturday, but I don't know if we're actually going to be having it this week or not. Still have to get back on that. Every other Saturday we have the Nonprofits Internet Audio Show. If you go to our webpage and click on the calendar, they have a lot of details on there as to exactly when, exactly where all of these things are. So that would be the best place to check it out. But our main meeting is the Sunday one. Also, another announcement, after the TV show, we have been doing dinners. Continuing that this week, we're going out to Chili's after the show, which is on the southeast corner of I-35 and 183. Again, that's going to be... Again, open to any atheist-friendly people. If you want to watch, come down and meet us, please do that. Also, one final announcement for upcoming events. We are having a election for ACA board members for the next year, and that's going to be May 1st. That's on May 1st, elections for new board members. It's still about a month and a half away, but again, any ACA members who are thinking about possibly doing that, running for the board, you can go ahead and get on that line, and we'll go for, and it gives you something to think about. Get in touch with any ACA board member, and we'll try and get you scheduled for that, and at least get you on the list and let you know what's up with the duties and the responsibilities and that type of thing. So again, that's about a month and a half away. May 1st is that scheduled. Okay, that's it for announcements. Thanks everybody for watching the show. Thank you, Matt, for helping out at the last minute. Understand that you have something on 10 Commandments and all the clap that's been going on about that recently.
Yeah, I had been thinking about this and started working up something, so it's not quite complete. A lot of times you'll hear from fundamentalist Christians and other activists on behalf of religion that the 10 Commandments are the basis for the laws in the United States.
Yes.
It's not the most common argument that we hear. You'll more often hear different versions of This Nation Christianity or Christian principles, etc.
It's a historic thing more than practical for nowadays, that type of stuff.
It's started to come back up more often as the Supreme Court has been hearing cases about the display of the 10 Commandments.
Yeah. The Texas and Kansas, I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Common arguments to support the claim that the 10 Commandments are the basis of the laws of the United States is that the 10 Commandments actually appear in several places around the Supreme Court. the building itself. The counter arguments to this they're almost so obvious that I have a hard time believing people are actually presenting this realistically as the Ten Commandments, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
First of all, any representation of the Ten Commandments that appear around the Supreme Court building are artist representations, and they're there as symbols of types of law or icon law. They're not specifically affirming that the Ten Commandments are the basis of our laws. On the Supreme Court building, the most significant display is on the eastern pediment of the Supreme Court, and it depicts Moses holding the 2 tablets of the Ten Commandments alone. He's got Confucius on one side and Solon on the other, as well as symbolic figures that represent the means of enforcing law, tempering justice with mercy, and other allegorical treatments. There's even the hair appear in that same montage.
Really?
Yeah.
How are they considered an icon of law?
It's more of an icon of justice, I believe, is what that fable is there to represent.
That's one of the larger stretches, though. But okay.
There are other depictions of the Ten Commandments within the building. There's a carving on one of the doors, which is it's just a simple art of one tablet with Roman numerals 1 through 10 on it.
Okay.
But there's no actual text there of the commandments are. It's clearly there as just another symbol, just like all the rest of the carvings that appear around the Supreme Court. Another argument that they tend to bring up is that the Supreme Court has referred to the Ten Commandments in at least 7 different cases. Supreme Court justices are still human, and many of them have been and are religious. And it's just because the Ten Commandments happen to have been mentioned doesn't necessarily lend any credence to the argument. Actually, take a look at the cases in which the Ten Commandments has been mentioned. The 7 cases, 3 of the references occur in the dissenting opinion, and 1 in a joint opinion that partially concurs and partially dissents. McGowan versus Maryland in 1961, the quote was, "Innumerable civil regulations enforce conduct which harm with religious concerns. State prohibitions of murder, theft, and adultery reinforce commands of the Decalogue." It wasn't intended as any kind of affirmation of the Ten Commandments as a basis of law. It was simply stating that, these 3 things exist within also exist within the Ten Commandments. Yeah. The other cases specifically go towards display of the Ten Commandments. And the ruling was that the Ten Commandments have been recognized as playing both a religious role, not the role, and that they can be displayed in government property, buildings, whatever, as long as they're part of a larger secular work.
Okay.
You can have the Ten Commandments displayed as an example of exactly the way it is on the pediment for the Supreme Court building. Okay. You can't just post the Ten Commandments by itself because it's not part of a larger secular work. Okay. Another argument, this is from the ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice. Their quote is, "It is hardly a of religion officially to recognize that the Ten Commandments were understood by our ancestors to be the source of the division of law into branches of constitutional law, criminal law, family law, property law, contract law, and tort law."
Sort of like the stretch for the tortoise and the hare.
Wow. I can't even imagine where they got this division of law. But that's the most robust statement that they can make, because as lawyers, which many of the ACLJ are, they know that they can't come right out and say commandments are the basis of our laws. Yeah. So they've couched it in this legalese and tried to claim that it does something which, well, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't see it. Yeah.
Well, the basis of any law, I mean, I don't get. Again, when you actually look at the commandments, which I assume you're going to get to, we only base our laws on, I think it's like 3 or 4 of them, perhaps. So 30 or 40% is what we actually use. But then again, any code out there has those. There's never been a society that says killing, A-OK. So we don't rely on any of them exclusively saying, because it's the Ten Commandments, we believe it. And most of them we just toss out completely. No graven images. Sorry, Hollywood.
I'm not completely sure the intent of the ACLJ's message, but reading into it a little bit, it basically boils down to their claiming that they can officially recognize the Ten Commandments as the source for the division of law without violating the Establishment Clause because not recognizing it as the source for all of the laws, as by making this claim of the
Just
source
somehow
for
the division of laws. But
even if that's their claim, I still pretty much disagree. If you recognize a passage from a religious text as having a direct bearing on our laws, whether they're involved in the basis for the laws themselves or even the division, there's an implicit validation of that text and the religion that it comes from. And that's the important thing about the Establishment Clause. If you start making claims, getting closer and closer to saying, regardless of what you personally believe, and we'll allow you to believe whatever you want, you'll still be judged in accordance with the laws of Yahweh as passed down to Moses.
Yeah.
You just simply can't make that kind of claim. If you look at the actual text, like you were mentioning a minute ago, the vast majority of them have no bearing on our law at all. About 30% we even have laws for most of them. We have laws that directly contradict.
Yeah.
The U.S. law doesn't uphold the amendment. It does the exact opposite. The first commandment being, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." Our laws are such that you can have any other god before any other god you want, including no god.
Freedom of religion.
Yeah.
Of course.
The second commandment, "Thou shalt not make any graven images." Now, this only applies to Protestants. Catholics have thrown that one out and split the 10th one in half because, well, you can't really have a Vatican if you don't have a bunch of graven images.
True.
But that law isn't supported by the Constitution, or that commandment isn't. The third commandment, "Thou shalt name the Lord thy God in vain." There's no law that says you can't do that. As a matter of fact, we have freedom of speech.
Yeah. You can.
Yeah, the Constitution affords us freedom of speech, which includes the right to use the name of any deity in contempt, jest, or vain. And it's inherently unconstitutional to attempt to force any human being to show reverence to a deity. That's a violation of your civil liberties.
Yeah.
The fourth one, to remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. You got to be kidding. This is a 24/7 nation.
Yeah. We have no law that says you cannot work on Saturday, Sunday.
The standard work
whatever
week's 5 days anyway, not 6.
Yeah.
And we're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Yeah.
The U.S. law doesn't uphold the fifth commandment either. The fifth, "Honor thy father and mother." You can't force anyone to honor any other person, including their parents.
Yeah.
You can force minors to live with their parents unless there's, a reason,
Yeah, a reason to take
abuse
them
or
out.
whatever, where we've got to remove them.
Yeah.
Children have even sued their parents.
Yeah. And again, some of these commandments are good ideas in general. As a general course of action, it is a good idea for kids to respect their parents.
Yes.
On the general course. But there's no law that says they must or they will be arrested and fined and have misdemeanor or felony penalties or anything like that.
You have to be very careful you decide to make laws. There's plenty of things you can say, this is, ethically correct, this is a good way to be, you should probably do this, treat each other with respect, don't talk mean to anybody. Those are okay things.
Yeah.
To make laws against them it's not in the nature of our Constitution. It's not the way the country was founded.
Yeah.
So, looking at the Ten Commandments, we're at 30% roughly that have any relevance at all to our laws. So, if 30% is enough that our laws are based on the Ten Commandments, in order to make that claim, you're basically saying that the Founding Fathers had so much respect for the edicts of the Almighty that they tossed 70% of them out right off the bat.
Yeah.
And then the last 30% were so horribly incomplete that they needed extensive, and those modifications required additional changes to the punishments. "Thou shalt not kill," that's not very explicit.
Yeah.
You're not really telling people anything when you say that. Does that include, killing animals? Does that include war? So we, and from a legal standpoint, defined murder and its varying degrees, and manslaughter and its varying degrees. "Thou shalt not kill" as a commandment was woefully inadequate. I wonder how many other legal systems which predate the Ten Commandments are more and more in keeping with the laws of the United States.
Yeah.
And if we found one, would that mean that our laws were based on that system? Not necessarily. I mean, there are a lot of laws that are just common sense, and there are a lot that are the result of careful deliberation and evaluating different circumstances, and that leads to precedent. Where's the commandment to wash your hands?
Yeah.
Before surgery even. How many diseases could have been prevented? How many other good commandments? Where's the commandment, thou shalt not have wait a minute, we're talking about a book that promotes slavery and actually tells you exactly how to mark your slave when you get them.
Yes, how to mark them, how to treat them, how to sell them.
There are children's card games which have rules which are more verbose, valuable, and relevant to the game than the Ten Commandments are to our daily lives, and they're not the basis of law.
No.
It's absurd that this is coming up, but when you're dealing with fundamentalists, specifically the fundamentalist organizations, they're doing a shotgun approach. They're attacking as many little things as they can. They have the people to do it.
Yeah.
They have the time and the money to focus on a lot of little different things. And one of the most important things is if you repeat a lie often enough, people are going to start believing it.
Yeah.
And by constantly on the media over and over again, repeating themselves, the laws of this nation were founded on the Ten Commandments. This is a Christian nation with Christian principles. You repeat that often and often enough, people who are Christian, which is 70% of the population of the United States, they're never going to question it because it doesn't challenge, it's not contradictory to what they would already assume.
Yeah.
And it bolsters their beliefs by saying, wow, look at this, I was right. And they never have to investigate it at all. Yeah. And for the remainder, well, here we are, telling you that it's crap.
It ain't so.
You can lie all you want and repeat it as many times as you want, but there's some of us who are not only not going to believe it, but we're going to actually let people know you're being lied to.
Yeah.
The laws of this nation weren't founded on the Ten Commandments. This nation wasn't founded on Christianity. We were totally deists who are the God of wind up the universe and let it roll.
Exactly.
And he's completely impersonal, doesn't respond to prayer.
Exactly. Exactly.
I just, having been a member of the ACA for a short time, and having only been an atheist for a few years after 25 plus years, I was a little upset about being lied to. And when I found out some of the things that I'd been lied to about, I take it a little personally, and I want to let other people know. Not everything you hear, even in church, is true.
Yeah. Or it could just be vast oversimplification. So often we hear that the Ten Commandments are a base of our law. Or, okay, fine, they're not a base of our law, but still, thou shalt not kill. What's so bad about having that? Ignoring the fact that it says you can't have other religions. I am the Lord thy God, the gods before me.
Yeah.
That cuts out religious freedom. So if you make a law based on that, you're destroying part of the founding feature of America. One of the pillars that we stand on is religious freedom. You can worship however you want or not worship however you want. And so to have some kind of law or say, well, what's so bad about saying no other gods? Well, it goes against what this country was founded on. So that's kind of the problem with it. So, but yeah, it's such a blatant oversimplification. It'll be very interesting to see what actually happens with this trial that's going on in the Supreme Court right now. So, all right, thank you very much. Again, anyone who's watching, phone number is going to go up on your screen momentarily. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns or anything like that, please go ahead and give it, and we'll get you on the air and see what you got to say. In the meantime, I got a couple quick things to go over here. First, I need to clarify something. I've been arguing something on the show, and apparently I've been wrong this whole time. So, just can be, we can correct our mistakes. We're going to do that right here. There's a new article out. We talk about the Bible sometimes as having very harsh punishment. You get burned in hell for eternity for tiny little mistakes and everything like that.
Stoned to bang your parents.
Exactly. Well, that's the problem. That came up, though. In a lot of the parts of the Bible, it says you get stoned for this, that, and the other. Taking literal meanings, I always thought that meant to get high. It sounded You get hot. You disobey our parents, you get stoned. Man, that's kind of cool. Apparently, I was wrong. There's a new translation of the Bible, and it says, for centuries, scholars have argued over the most delicate nuances of biblical text, passionately debating whether key words should reflect cultural changes. A 15-strong panel of eminent theologians and linguists was so concerned that young people reading the Bible today are confusing the phrase stoned, not with Old Testament executions, but with drugs, that it has suggested a radical clarification to a forthcoming sacred text. In an attempt to clear up any confusion on the part of Britain's youth, today's new international version of the Bible updates the original edition published 27 years ago so that people are stoned to death rather than stoned. Now they get really high. Scholars they have a couple other changes that they're going with too. May sense political correctness in the changes. Out goes terminology such as he, man, and men, replaced by person or people. In comes an attempt to dispel anti-Semitic interpretations of the New Testament. John 5:16 now reads, Jewish leaders rather than Jews began to persecute Jesus. It says the changes were made to increase understanding rather than to make the Bible more contemporaneous. Overall, around 7% of the original New International Version has been altered in a bid to try and bring clarity. Changes appear trivial. For example, Matthew's use of the word tunic becomes shirt, and his phrase with child becomes pregnant. So they're just going through and cleaning it up. That's something that occasionally we'll get translations and saying, well, the king's the best one, or it's not the best one, and you should go with this translation, or whatever.
So they're clearing it up. They're rewording it just for clarity?
Yes. According to them, it is just to increase understanding.
I'd be surprised if that was the only changes that have been made. The NIV is the apologist's favorite Bible.
Exactly.
Because it smooths over a lot of things.
It is so
turning 42 children into a gang of youths.
Yeah.
To kind of
makes it sound
soften the punishment.
Bunch of hoodlums.
I'm just wondering. I guess they're probably not going to replace the word foreskin because it's pretty clear. That's one of the most frequent words in the Old Testament, I think.
Do a search for it and find out. All right, we've got a couple callers lined up, so we'll go ahead and start with them. We have got Rich. You there?
Yes.
How you doing?
Hi, Rich.
All right. You guys doing a really good job. I wanted to commend you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm a 44-year-old man who was raised in a Christian home and raised for, I guess, up until I was about 18, Christian himself.
Okay.
And when I got to college, I did some comparison studies of the major religions in the world and found that Christian religion really was a bunch of lies as far as I could tell. So
yeah.
I'm not an atheist. I'm not a Christian.
All right.
Along with that, and that said, I totally agree about the Ten Commandments not being the basis of our government. It never has been and never will be.
Yeah.
I don't know, except for we're saying that by word of mouth alone, people believe what they want to believe. And so it's been said so many times by people who want that to be the truth.
Exactly.
That is like they kind of create their own truth, and that becomes the truth. Yeah. So I'm out there preaching the same thing that you guys are, even though I'm not an atheist.
Yeah, right. Well, we don't expect everyone to agree with everything that we have to say, but we try and make some good points, and hopefully some people will catch on.
Well, keep up the good job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for calling.
Uh-huh.
And we don't always just on Christianity. It's 70% of the population, and they're the ones that are,
It's the one that comes up all the time.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not just anti-Christian. It's,
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, we have issues with some of the tenets of Christianity.
Yes.
And some of the ways that it is promoted. That is where the issue lies. The whole fundamental basis of it is something that I just can't believe in, the God. Now, whether you want to say that that's the Christianity God or Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, Taoist, whatever, I don't believe in any of those either. It's just not very often do we get callers coming in saying, I believe in the summum faith, and, here are my tenets. It's like, okay, yours are wacky too. We just don't get that many callers, so we don't focus on that. We focus on Christianity here. But again, if you have something about that, about other religions, go ahead and give us a call. We'll see what we can do for you. Okay, let's go on to a couple more callers. We have got George, you there?
Yes, I'm here. I don't consider myself a Christian anymore, and that seems to be the caveat that everyone who calls you guys say that they don't consider themselves Christian. But as I'm getting older, I'm starting to doubt an awful lot that I've been taught in my life, and I think in religion, period, just the whole concept of organized religion. Okay. It seems to be for the weak-minded. It seems that individuals have to have something to hang on to in order to validate their existence. If, as you were saying earlier, the Ten Commandments, if that's law, or if that's the basis of any law, I want to move from this country extremely quick because it's absolutely scary.
Yeah.
And the point you made about respecting and honoring are two different things. You should respect authority. You should respect your parents as authority. But honoring is a type thing. I don't honor everything that my mother and father did. My mother was a smoker. Yeah. I hate that. To this day, she has cancer. I hate that. I can't honor that facet. But do I respect her for raising me and everything else? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just feel that, and I'm sorry for jumping on the subject here.
No, that's fine.
When you guys spoke about the modification of the Bible, that's the biggest thing that makes me laugh when Christians say you have to accept the Bible on faith. Well, if it hadn't been rewritten 462 trillion times, then maybe I would accept it on faith. But the fact that it goes to fit who's ever in the lead in society at that time modifies the Bible to fit their need. There was a point in time when you talk about the Bible referring to slavery, what God, if there is one, would condone the capture, the torture, the beating of the people? It seems to defy the fact that there is a God. And then I would die young. Well, why would a merciful or just God kill somebody who's never done anything wrong, who's innocent? There's just so many contradictions.
Yeah. Which is the whole Jesus thing. Why would he kill someone who's perfectly innocent to save everyone who isn't? And then,
I mean, it gives you something. It gives you something to confuse you, so you can say, "Whoa, that's really deep." I mean, it must be a spiritual being because he's saying something really deep. It just amazes me how this country, the fundamentalists who say, "Thou shalt," and the one you didn't touch on it as far as the commandments, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's property."
Yeah. Yes.
The United States is very good with imperialism. We take over so many. Isn't that not coveting our neighbors? Or
that commandment alone is what built this nation. Keeping up with the Joneses is the essence of capitalism.
$13 for Louisiana. I wish I could get a purchase like that. If that wasn't still ripping somebody off. Mexico. I mean, Texas. We're living in Mexico right now, but don't tell Texas because we took this land. It's our land by birthright. It's our land. So these. And thou shalt not kill. We can kill you if you're in prison. We can have a state-sanctioned killing. We can shoot you as police officers. We can shoot you as the military. For
self-defense.
If I catch you in bed with my wife, I can't shoot you. It's justifiable, maybe, if it's the heat of attack. So there's
but depends on which judge you get.
Yeah, exactly. If the judge,
I mean, there's a lot of gray area there.
No, never mind. All right. Thanks, guys. You're doing a great job.
Thanks for calling. And that's an interesting point to bring up, though, going back a little bit. You were saying honor versus worshiping.
Right.
Or honor is a form of worship that respect is not.
Right.
That's another problem that I've always had with Christianity and religions in general, is saying that you must worship this God.
Yeah, what God would need to be worshipped.
Exactly.
That implies that he's missing something.
Exactly, that he has some kind of ego problem, that he needs people to bow down before him.
Yeah.
Now, I have a lot of people on this earth that I respect greatly. People that I know personally and people that, I look to in terms of, great scientists, people who've known a lot and have published a lot and that type of thing. I respect what they say a lot. Now, they can still be wrong, which is one thing that I think a lot of religious people sometimes get, is that atheism means there is no God. We don't have anyone who is infallible. We don't look to God, Jesus, the Pope, pastor, other religious people, or anything, and say what they say is perfectly good. We don't look to scientists.
No dogma at all.
Yeah, we don't look to scientists and say if a scientist says it, it must be true. Unquestioningly so. It doesn't work like that. And so people call in occasionally and say, well, Darwin had some writings that were racist in nature. It's like, hey, he was wrong. One, that was 150 years ago. We figured a few more things out since then. He had a couple good ideas in his writings, and he had some great ideas that revolutionized the way that things are done. That doesn't mean we have to take everything that he ever and did as gospel,
right,
and say he's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, one incorrect statement doesn't invalidate everything you've ever said, just like one correct statement doesn't validate everything else you've ever said.
Exactly.
It's kind of absurd. There were plenty of people who kept slaves who I'm sure said and did great things. And there are some people who never kept slaves who said and did some very bad things.
Yeah.
You have to look at everything, and that's part of the scientific process in a sense.
Yeah.
Gather evidence that you can acquire and make a decision based on that, and not just, well, this is wrong, so the rest of everything else you say is crap. Now, this is my first time up here on the show. Yeah. I might get a fact wrong, but that doesn't, invalidate everything I've said.
Yeah. Getting one or two little facts wrong in there.
I'm going to get something wrong at some point.
It's something to correct.
It's human nature.
But again, it's not, again, baby and bathwater.
Yeah.
Keep them separate. So, all right. Again, phone number will be on your screen shortly. Let's go ahead and take a couple more callers. We have got Mike. You there?
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hi, Mike.
I didn't catch the first part of the show. You were talking about, we're not a Christian nation. Yeah. Did you mention the Treaty of Tripoli?
I actually did not mention it.
That's a very important thing, because the Treaty of Tripoli, which is about 1797, we were at war with some Arab countries, and we get up this treaty, and in this treaty we state, very explicitly, we are not a Christian nation. We are not.
Yeah.
And it's very explicit in it. We are not a Christian nation. And I think it was Adams who signed it, and I think the U.S. Senate at that time met.
Yeah.
And this was early on in the development of our country, and we basically stated we are not a Christian nation, and that is very important.
Yeah, somehow they conveniently overlook that one.
Exactly.
So.
Well, there's a problem with it in that it exists in one copy of the document and not in another. So I know there's some dispute on it.
Okay.
But the reality of it is that in the original document that we have, it exists, and it plainly says at the beginning, being that the United States is in no way founded on the Christian religion, etc. That's actually stuff that would have been covered in another half of this.
And actually signed by one of the founding members of this country.
Yeah, one of the things that a lot of people don't know that's important to remember is that, and I don't have the details because it's in another part of the essay, but to some extent, God was explicitly voted out of the Constitution. There were members who were attempting to get an amendment in that specifically touched on God, and it was voted out. The framers of the Constitution wanted it to be completely ambiguous with regard to
right.
Yeah.
And the person who wrote the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson, was not a Christian. In fact, he took his Bible and all of the supernatural qualities assigned to Jesus, he took out. He thought Jesus was a person, just a prophet, and the Son of God. So again, when Christians say, well, the Declaration of Independence mentions God, well, fine, but it's not their God that is mentioned.
Yeah.
So if they want to use that, well, then fine.
Yeah. And the Declaration of Independence is not a binding legal document. It's just a declaration. Our laws are in no way related.
Yeah.
Right. And again, the Ten Commandments that talks about you should have no icon, but yet most of these people treat the U.S. flag as an icon.
Yeah.
Basically, they're trying to get to where if you burn or whatever, then that's a crime. So they're treating it like an icon. So they're going against the Ten Commandments. Yeah. And lastly, one of the Ten Commandments is you shall not commit adultery. And according to the Bible, adultery is more than just a married person having sex outside the marriage. If you get divorced, basically you're an adulterer.
Yeah.
So if we were Ten Commandments, divorce would be outlawed.
Right.
Well, I don't think it's divorce makes you an adulterer. I think it's divorce and then getting remarried.
Well,
or having any relationship.
basically, I think if you, it's basically, again, the Bible is sort of written in the male perspective, and if you as a man divorce your wife and for reasons other than, I think, adultery, for her having sex outside the marriage, then basically you are causing her to become an adulterer, and you are becoming an adulterer.
Interesting.
To me, that's sort of clear in the Bible, is getting divorced makes you an adulterer. And if you do get divorced, and again you have sex out, for sure, but again, it's, if we were based on the Ten Commandments, and divorce would be outlawed.
Yeah. And again, there are a lot of things in Ten Commandments and the Bible in general that they may be a relatively good idea in most cases. Not cheating on people, typically a good idea. Not something we have a law for. There is no law that says you cannot cheat on your wife, husband, whatever. It's a good idea, no doubt about it, but there's no law specifically outlawing it. So,
there were adultery laws on the books.
at one point?
Almost all of the adultery laws, as far as I know. There weren't any federal laws, but along with a lot of the other morality laws that different states tried to pass, with regard to like blue laws, can't work on Sunday, etc. There were at one time adultery laws. With the advent of no-fault divorces, so the adultery laws have either been overturned or they're just ignored. Not that they were often enforced, but I know that in Virginia, within the last 4 or 5 years, a man was actually, brought up on charges with regard to the adultery laws at the time. But
wow,
I don't have the info. I'll look it up.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks all for calling. Okay. It seemed like I had something else to go on with that, but I guess I can't remember what it is. Okay. If it comes back to me, I'll remember. Anyway, on to a couple more callers. Let's go on to Matthew. You there?
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Yeah, I was going to tell you guys that the Freemasons actually put that Ten Commandments down at the Capitol building, the Fraternal Order of the Eagles.
Right.
Yeah.
And there is actually an all-seeing eye with a pyramid.
Yeah.
Because the pyramid is the representation of
On the dollar bill.
the delta.
Yeah.
I wanted to say too that if we're going to take the Ten Commandments down, we're going to have to take all those magic circles and the stars and everything that are down there too. We're going to have to sandblast those off the sides of the buildings.
How
and
so?
the
How so?
goddess to the top of the Capitol building, the goddess of
Liberty.
of many old myths.
Yeah. But again, I think that one would typically be considered symbolic.
Yeah.
Just like the Ten Commandments at the Supreme Court is basically just, with 1 through 10 numbered on it. It's an icon saying law. The Liberty, I think it's Liberty, at the top of...
Justice.
Yeah, okay, justice. It's not something where people are actually bowing down saying, is the U.S. government promoting that we...
Yeah, that when they're lying in state there, when the politicians are dead and they put them in there and they're lying in state.
So it's not something that the government's promoting that religion.
Well, once a religion is dead, you would think that would just become art.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Worship of Isis isn't dead.
No, do you know anything about Freemasonry?
I know very little about
Very
Freemasonry.
little bit.
Yeah,
mostly it's, from everything I've heard, it's all a lot of, I'm trying to think.
It's a Babylon mystery religion.
Okay. But it's still not something that's actively practiced all that much today. We don't get calls from Freemasons all that often saying anything significant.
Yeah.
So.
Also, you had a caller that said what God would advocate slavery.
Okay.
That would be Lucifer would advocate slavery. And Freemasonry teaches you that, and I know this, I've studied it, Freemasonry teaches you that there are races, and the one at the top is the Aryan race, and that all the rest of the races are sub-races. And this comes strictly from a Freemason, C.W. Ledbetter, in his books Ancient Rites of Freemasonry, which is also known by other titles. He states that the Aryan race is at the top of the 7 races, and that all the rest of the races are sub-races.
Okay.
Well, you mentioned, when we asked which god would subvert, and you mentioned Lucifer. Well, Yahweh does too. Yeah. It's right there in the Bible, not only that you're allowed to keep slaves, but it tells you explicitly who you can and cannot enslave. You can enslave your neighbors, other countries around you, but not, and it tells you exactly how to mark them. To say that Lucifer is a god that would promote slavery, but not Yahweh is a flat-out lie against what's in the Bible. I mean, if you take the Bible as truth, and I have no idea if you do, okay, but the people who make claims like that, yeah, Yahweh completely supported slavery.
Do you think there's have you ever seen Rosemary's Baby?
Yes.
You know how all those people that are Satanists in that movie just look like normal people?
Right.
And they're all society types. They're all, and I'm not a person that gets confused between fiction and reality. Okay.
Okay.
So don't start going into that area.
Just most of the people I've ever heard who really go off about Freemasons are usually into that. There's conspiracy going on, and all the presidents are Freemasons, and they go and sacrifice babies into great fires when they become presidents.
You're exaggerating.
And weird things like that. So I haven't seen any evidence of it. If Freemasonry is a religion just like, Christianity else, then it's just as wacky as those religions too. Maybe in slightly different aspects, but it's just as wrong as Christianity is then.
Exactly.
So...
Is Freemasonry actually considered a religion?
It is.
Or is it, I'm talking about with regard to U.S. law, that can be declared a religion is something you have to make a showing for, like when the Scientologists were pushing to be declared as a religion. My understanding was that Freemasonry was an organization much like the Shriners and not an actual religion unto itself.
Okay.
I could be way wrong. I haven't looked.
That is true. I have heard of that. It's not technically a religion. It's more of a guild, perhaps.
Yeah. My grandfather was a Freemason, but he's dead now, so I can't ask him. But I'll definitely look more into that.
Okay. Yeah, you need to check out Albert Pike because he actually says that it is in, and they do have a Bible inside the lodge.
Okay.
And they do hold rituals and they do hold ceremonies.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much like if you don't have to be a Christian to be a Freemason, but you do have to believe in God.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is why I was thinking that it wasn't actually a religion by itself, because they accept a wide variety of denominations. It's like
the Unitarians, in the sense that Unitarians accept anyone who wants to come type thing. Unity not a religion.
Right. Yeah.
Freemasons are willing to accept anyone of any other religion. Then it would be hard to classify them as a religion, because what are their specific beliefs that you must go along with?
They might have their own rituals and traditions, and any secret fraternal type society is going to have things along those lines without necessarily qualifying them as a religion.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Freemasons seek light, right? They're asked, what do you seek? More light. Every time you get raised a degree in Freemasonry. So Pike, in his book Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite, on page 254, I believe, actually stated that it is the light of Lucifer that you are seeking.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's some things also in the Mormons, in the church, that you don't get on the first time you go to their church.
Brigham Young was a Freemason.
That's really weird stuff. So yeah, the Mormons also have some wacky beliefs too.
Yeah.
When you die, you get to become your own god and you get your own universe, which is kind of cool. Better afterlife things, 72 virgins, that's pretty awesome. Getting my own friggin' universe to play with, that's rocks.
It's way more than 72 virgins.
Exactly. I know, you can make as many as you want. So yeah, I mean, again, lots of religions have lots of wacky stuff going on with them. Freemasonry is one that we don't get on here all that often. Because again, it's just not something that's as active anymore, or at least nobody proclaims to be Freemasons, which again just means that everyone kind of assumes that it's some kind of subculture thing that's going on, where nobody admits that they all really are. So
let me shed some light on something here. I personally know a Freemason. I know him and work with him, and he has inadvertently and overtly broken his oath to me and told me some things. I mean, he told me something where it's pure. You're purifying yourself with fire and stuff like this. I asked him the other day what he thought of child sacrifice, and he said, as he was laughing, he said, it has its place.
Yeah.
And this is personal experience. And
well, if any of these people are ever caught, then they'll suffer the same repercussions as anybody else.
They're gonna start calling you too to defend themselves. Watch, they'll start calling. They probably already have.
Maybe.
Well, thanks for stirring them up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Thanks for calling.
Later, dude.
So. Yeah, not very often. Every now and then they come up on the show.
So I actually looked into Freemasonry quite a long time ago, and just only very briefly. And I do know that there are sites that claim to outline all the different rituals and the different levels or orders of Freemasonry. I'm just not up on it enough to comment. But I don't think that they are considered, there may be somebody in a book refers to them as a religion or even as a cult or whatever else.
As our government.
Yeah, as far as I know, they're not actually a religion.
Okay, but we're not hoping to get the show all into Freemasonry because it ends up just being...
Because I didn't study that.
Yeah, I know. We don't know all that much about it. If somebody wants to call in and defend it, don't bother. You have your own weird beliefs. So let's just steer off of that one. Let's go on to Clifton. You there?
Yeah.
Okay, what you got for us?
I don't understand that. If y'all claim y'all don't believe there's a God out there, why y'all so intimidated about the commandment capital?
It's not intimidation. It's the government saying, here's a document that we think you should support. Here's something that we think you should believe. And it basically takes away some of the things that this country was founded on, freedom of religion.
Is the government making you believe these laws, though?
It's not them making us believe. What it is people gain power in steps. And if you concede a step, then they're making progress. So while I don't believe in God, and I know that our laws weren't based on the Ten Commandments, two types of displays, not only do they violate the Constitution, but you're allowing people to start edging in and tell more and more of their beliefs.
So y'all believe in the Constitution, right?
Well,
it definitely exists as far as I know.
Yeah, they've got lots of copies out there. You can pick them up yourself.
But do you believe in the Constitution, though? Constitution, do you agree with the Constitution? Because...
For the most part, yes.
Oh, you said most part. But then I don't understand about...
Well, again, it's not flawless, just like any other
But then you got to understand this, too, though. If you don't believe if the God out there and you don't believe his law, why are y'all so worried on that state capital? Because if you don't believe in something, you're not going to be intimidated about it. So if somebody keeps saying God to you...
But again, this has nothing to do with intimidation.
It seems like it does.
It has to do with governmental... It has to do with the government supporting one religion over any others. Saying, we think you, sir, because you're a Christian, are better than that guy over there who's not.
But do you go by laws by the government, though?
We live in the country. We're kind of forced to, yeah.
Is in the Ten Commandments you believe in, though?
Kill, don't steal, but that's in pretty much any law system that's ever been invented by man in history.
What about adultery?
Again, it's a good idea. We don't have any laws outlawing it, though, really, in this country.
But then, if you're atheist, how come y'all don't have your own Bible?
Because atheism is belief in a God.
Okay, but then you should have something, though?
No, why?
That's just like saying y'all don't have no faith in what y'all believe in, though.
No, it means that we don't have any dogmatic beliefs.
Atheist, to me, is a person that don't accept God.
No, it's someone who doesn't...
do believe in God, y'all just don't accept God. Because a lot of things are going on today. Like, for example, it was a TV show called Touched by an Angel. Atheists said they want that off. Why they were so intimidated by having that show on there? It's like this.
I've never heard of any argument trying to get that show off. While it may be kind of weird, I never cared for it. But hey, if somebody wants to have a TV show about it, that's fine. I was a big fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Doesn't mean I think that there are actually demons and vampires out there. It was a fun show. Some people think Touched by an Angel is a good show. Hey, that's fine.
But then, like the Ten Commandments, if you don't like it, what the government do, don't read it though.
Okay, and we don't. But again, it's the government saying this form of religion is better than anything else.
I never heard it like the government said you got to obey this because you have to be a Christian. So basically, you saying right now you have to be a Christian, or the government saying
the government is promoting in a small way, granted, but the government is promoting Christianity. Yes.
So that's what y'all complain about. He promotes Christianity. He's trying to put y'all to separate from y'all. Trying to say.
Yes, and there's also...
Okay, but then on the other hand, then, whatever y'all believe in, I don't get it. Y'all don't have your Bible. Y'all got no... It seems like y'all don't have no faith.
You don't believe in anything that doesn't come from the Bible?
Y'all don't have your rule. Y'all don't have any rules or regulation in y'all beliefs.
And what we believe or don't believe is irrelevant. I wouldn't want a monument on the Capitol grounds promoting atheism. It's not the government's place to say this religion or belief is right while that one is wrong.
Okay, then that's the case. Why don't you get your monument and put it on the state capitol?
That's what I just said, is I don't want that on there just because I don't want to have a Christianity one, a Jewish one, hang on, a Muslim, atheist, Buddhist, Taoist, deist. We don't need to have, graveyard of monuments of 8,000 different monuments out there supporting every little cause of religion that you could think of. What's the point? That's not the government's job to say this religion is better than that one or we support this one. The government should stay out of that and say, hey, if you want to be religious, great, go for it. If you don't want to be religious, that's fine too. The government is not there to say this is better than that. They should stay out of it.
I think you also have a fundamental misconception of what an atheist is. An atheist is simply somebody who does not believe in a God. There's no tenets, no dogma, no rules, no regulations, and we all disagree on a variety of things. Atheism is not a list of moral laws to live by.
Do you teach people, do you try to teach people and get into what you studying or what you believe in, though?
I would always prompt people to question their beliefs, to investigate.
I don't know about your belief, though.
What are my beliefs? I mean, you're ascribing things to me that I've never said. Do you know what my beliefs are, apart from that I don't believe in a God?
I'm a Christian, and I believe it. So I was trying to tell people who is God and trying to change their lives or joining with God because I have faith in my religion. But then you claim you got faith in something.
No, I've never claimed I had faith in anything. No.
So why are you going to believe in something you don't have no faith in?
I'm not believing in something. I don't believe in your God. I don't believe in any God.
You don't believe in God, right? So you got faith. So you're just saying that you don't have faith that it is a God.
I'm not saying that I have faith.
No, I'm saying that.
Again, you have a fundamental misunderstanding.
If you don't have no faith or what you believe in, then that's like no.
I don't need faith in my beliefs. My beliefs, varied as they are, my beliefs are the result.
That made no sense then.
Well, it's because you have a fundamental lack of grasp on belief and atheism. Atheism isn't anything like that. Do you believe that unicorns exist?
Am I who?
Do you believe that unicorns exist?
I don't believe unicorns exist.
Okay. So what are your beliefs? What are your beliefs?
Life, I don't have to see to believe it, though.
So what are your beliefs? Where's your book that says unicorns don't exist? And where are your what kind of monument are you going to put up promoting that? The same thing.
No, let me answer that. I haven't seen no book by no unicorn. There's been no documents of anybody seeing a unicorn. Just folktale because everybody else is false. But then I've seen a book called the Bible that people seen Jesus and then and they
but you see, we put
no book. Nobody can come. No atheist can't. If it be
we put the Bible.
If it be two people with an atheist and a Christian religion, if an atheist can have something to back up, then you won't have doubts about it. But atheists don't have nothing to back it up, though.
I've seen books that talk about unicorns and books where people have claimed. What makes you think that the Bible stories?
Let's let him finish the point here.
What makes you think stories are anything more than the folk tales that you would hear?
When things they send in the book is going on today, and it was like thousands and thousands years ago.
So
no atheist came up. No atheist came and said,
"But there's still
I've done this 1,000 years. This was going to happen."
Yeah, but unicorns were about hundreds of years too. Just because we still have stories about them doesn't mean that they're real.
But everybody know they were folk tales, though. They were folk tales, though.
But again, what makes you think that Jesus is any more than a folk tale?
What about other religions? Are those all folk tales too, and people just assume?
Yeah.
I can't judge on their religion because I don't get into their religion though.
What
So do you think Zeus is a real god?
Who?
Zeus.
No.
Why not?
Okay. No. Well, why?
Because I ain't got no faith for that. Because I don't believe it.
So if you believed it, then it would make it exist.
There ain't nobody believing in Zeus today, though.
There actually are some very, very small numbers, but they're out there. But that's beside the point.
Okay,
if you believed in Zeus, would that make him exist? No. What you believe is separate from what really is. If somebody actually believes that there's Zeus, they're wrong. I'm sorry. Just because someone believes in God and Jesus that doesn't necessarily make them right. They have to provide something to back up that belief.
And they do.
What?
It be plenty times that we have backed up.
But what? Give me
about faith, though. About faith.
Give me a specific instance that it's been backed up with.
You got to read it for yourself.
Okay, but it's a book.
I just told you the words, though, man.
It's a book, just like. Hang on. It's a book that's out there that has Again, there are books out there, horns and elves and dwarves and vampires and Zeus and all these kind of things. Just because there's a book about it doesn't mean anything. It's a book. Get over it. I believe. Oh, that line hung up. Just had you on hold for a second there to try and. But again, just because there's a book out there that says something exists and is real, doesn't make it so. You have to have real-world evidence showing this kind of stuff for anyone to make it a bother to believe you.
Well, one of the things he said right there at the end was that it's all about faith. If it actually is all, then you don't need 10 Commandment monuments. You don't need organizations to go out and proselytize. Yeah. All you need is your own faith. And there's no reason to ever call up and object to anything that we've said, because you have your faith and that's all you need. We don't have that faith. What's the problem?
Yeah. The problem is most people who have faith try and push that faith on others.
Yeah, we'll hammer that faith into you.
Yeah, that's the main reason why we have the show. If many Christians call into the show, most Christians are like this. They say that, look, I don't force this upon anyone. It's just my own personal beliefs and ideas.
Right.
And if you don't believe that, that's fine. I don't have any issue with them. I think their ideas of God and Jesus are wrong. I don't agree with it. But if they want to believe that and they do anything wacky, that's fine. It's the ones who say, I think there is a Jesus and God, and I think you should believe him too. Therefore, let's go do something about
it. Right. And here, because of my beliefs, here are these morals that I think we all need to live by. Sorry, I don't ascribe to that.
Exactly. If you want to believe things, that's perfectly fine. Just don't impose them on anyone else. We have this show because people are trying to impose those beliefs on other people. That's where we have a problem. So.
Yeah, and it's not intimidation. I have an objection to people being lied to. I don't like to see other people being lied to and accepting a lie. And if I can do something to say, take another look at it, evaluate what you've been told, try and get some outside evidence. Just listen to this guy because he happens to be your preacher or your friend or your mom or your dad or an eminent scientist. Look into it for yourself and find out whether or not the evidence that you're trying to establish is true. How valid is it? And whether should you base a belief structure out of it or on it.
Yeah. And a good exercise, also look at people who disagree with you.
Yes.
And see what they say. If you look at some of the books out there against Christianity and against religion in general, they make some really good arguments as to why you shouldn't believe. I mean, that's why I'm here. I get emails every week, and I come on the show every week and talk to people who vehemently disagree with my belief and, atheism in general. So I'm not hiding myself from opposing viewpoints.
Right.
I'm confronting them and saying, okay, if somebody out there has information that leads me to believe that what I know is wrong, I want to know about it. If there is a heaven and hell, I want to frickin' know about it.
That's one of the things that always me is they make this assumption that none of us have ever actually considered it. I was a Christian for 25 years in the process or more, and the process of moving away from religion, moving away from Christianity, and acknowledging my own atheism was not something I did hastily. It was a lot of thought, because the fact of the matter is, if I was wrong, my eternal soul was at stake.
Yeah.
You just don't want to make errors about something like that.
You don't want to mess up on that one.
But after years of studying and considering both sides, arguments from a number of people, some people have made bad and good arguments for Christianity, and some people have made bad arguments and good arguments against it. And looking at all of it and compiling it up, I was led to the only possible conclusion I could make. You can only believe what your mind accepts.
Yeah.
My mind no longer accepts Christianity or any other religion. And it wasn't a matter of denying God or refusing God. If there was an afterlife and I could go on living forever, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Let me spend some quality time with some people that I didn't get to meet before. Let me know the things that I'm not going to be able to discover during this lifetime. Heck, let me read the books that I'm not going to get to read, see the sites, get the answers to the questions. And I think that's one of the things that's attractive about religion. There's this carrot dangling in front of your face, promising answers at some point in the future. Well, after we die, God's going to explain it all to you. Well, prove it. You can't.
Yeah. So this is the only life that we know for a fact. We actually make the most of this one. Know that this is the real one. There could potentially be one in the future, but don't waste this life expecting that one unless you have some real good evidence of it. Because without that, again, you're wasting the one life you have that you do know about for the potential that there could be a better one waiting in the future for you. We don't know about it yet. Don't plan on it. So until there's solid evidence. Anyway, let's go on to yet more callers. We have got...
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, what you got for us?
First, let me just start by saying that I am by no means a religious man, per se, but,
okay.
When you sit there and you talk about faith, I think it is obvious to say that you do hold faith, because as an atheist, you can't prove some of your assumptions. You can say there's no existence, there's no God in existence, but you can't really prove a negative. So, on the face of it, you have to hold faith in some sort, one way or the other.
And again, that's
faith you hold.
That can be cleared up pretty easily, though. And again, you said it's a minor point, so I won't spend on it. You're right. I can't prove that God doesn't exist or isn't hiding out under a rock in Missouri or something like that. The point is that no believer in God has ever shown enough evidence for me to think that there actually is an all-powerful, universe-creating being out there, who created the world and loves everybody. I've never seen enough evidence of that, so I don't believe in it.
I can totally understand that, and my point of view comes from an agnostic point of view. Really, I don't know, and I frankly don't really care. I have too many things going on in my life to worry about it, to be honest.
Okay.
But to look at it analytically, the laws of statistical probability basically prove that it is much more likely that the universe was created through some kind of intelligent design than it happening through random chance.
How so?
Just the laws of probability. The probability of everything that you see around you, from human beings to dogs to electricity to the earth to the air, the probability that everything comes together through chance from a one-cell organism somehow coming alive and spread from that one-cell organism. We don't know how that organism came alive. If everything was created from nothing, how did something gain life and then grow from that life to become billions of human beings? The laws of statistical probability are on my side in that point.
We get the point, but...
Actually, they're not. They're your side. The flaw in that...
If you look up the definition of statistical probability, I think you will be shown that...
Well, let's find out what the point...
would agree.
Let's find out what the point was going to be before we dismiss it.
The flaw in that is you're ascribing significance to this set of results. This existence, this universe, is just as unlikely as every other one that ever came around, or could have come around, I should say. You're ascribing significance to it, which makes it look like, incredibly unlikely, when the fact is, you don't know how many times this could or couldn't have happened before. And the only thing that really matters is that that specific set of conditions exists now. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to talk about it.
I understand that, and I agree with that basic concept. But again, you're holding faith in the fact that there could be, some other worlds or some other time, a million years ago, but you don't know, so you're holding faith in that. Really, my only other point...
Well, no, I'm not holding faith. That's kind of beside the point.
I'm not holding faith in that. And
I know. Again, it was a minor point. I'm just saying you kind of ridicule people for having faith as if they're stupid. But in reality, you hold faith in something you can't prove.
Well, no. Normally, the faith that they have is something that they admit they can't prove or have no evidence of. I don't have any evidence of God. I don't have any proof of God. But I have faith in God. That's something that I don't think has any place. Why do you believe in something which has which you admit evidence?
Well, as soon as you have evidence, there's no more need for faith.
That's silly. I don't have faith in pretty much anything. Any views that I have that I can think of offhand are backed up in some way. Now, some are stronger than others, but again, the Big Bang, for instance, there's a lot out there for the Big Bang. Evolution, there's a lot of evidence out there for evolution. So that's why I believe it, because it's backed up by evidence. Not because, well, just because I feel like it.
I obviously am not a biblical scholar, but I believe there are thousands of scholars say, well, this here in the Bible has been proven through historical fact, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, but again, a lot of those predictions are either misrepresentations or things like there will be a great war. Well, yeah, there's going to be a great war probably within 10 years of you writing whatever it.
There are things documented, say, like in the Roman history books that are corroborated in the Bible. Again, I can't speak.
Again, very extremely little. The Romans kept a lot of notes, and there's pretty much no notes of Jesus.
Going back again, one second to what you're talking faith, I think you're trying to do something, maybe probably unconsciously, that a lot of other people do. Just because I don't have faith in God does not mean that I have faith that there is no God. Those two things are not equivalent. I don't have faith necessarily. People have often made the arguments, well, you have faith that your significant other will be faithful. You have faith that the sun will come up. No, I don't. I have reasonable expectations based on past, based on history. Things have happened to build up a reasonable expectation. Different from faith. Faith is, at least as far as I'm concerned, believing in something without evidence, and believing in something where evidence exists to the contrary.
Okay, and as for the religious symbols discussion you were talking about, I think you both know that on public land is not an establishment of religion. It simply is an acknowledgement of religion. And the Constitution clearly states that the federal government cannot establish a religion. So if the federal government puts a cross on its land, that's not establishing a religion. And the Constitution allows for each state.
But again, it is promoting to a slight extent that religion over all others. Do you think that as
symbols and we already said that
do you think that they should? Do you think the government should promote 1, 2, or 50 religions over other religions, or not?
I believe that the government should not establish one religion, and only the federal government should not establish one religion. But the federal
I'll accept that. I agree with that. Do you think the government should promote any 1, 2, or X number of religions over other or non-religions?
I certainly do not believe the federal government should be doing anything of that sort.
Okay, then. So then why should they have a cross up there when they don't have all the other monuments, which again goes against the idea of no faith, which you're also free to have?
The easiest way to issue, in other words, is to not have anything up regarding any religion. That's
secular atheism is a religion in itself in many ways, and
it's not. No, it's yes. I believe you are exceedingly wrong on that one. And again, we're not
spread your faith.
I'm going to cut you off or anything, but you're doing this a kind of scattershot approach, as in throw out 25 different things and see which one sticks. Atheism is not a religion. Religion typically means that you have some faith in a higher power. I don't have any higher up to God that I worship or observe or have, worship, respect, or have faith in or anything like that. So atheism is not a religion. Now, if you want to go with the very
routine that you follow day in and day out, you don't have to necessarily.
Okay, then it's going to.
I could be religious about play football every day.
And if you want to reduce religion to something as simple as watching football or being a Buffy fan club member, then that's fine, but it takes all point out of it. Then, again, does the Buffy fan club get federal funding and tax-free exemptions? Probably not, because they're not a religion. If you want to make them included in the religion, fine, but what's the point? A bowling league, is that a religion? It doesn't mean anything.
Well, interesting discussion. I appreciate it. I just want to leave you with saying that I would assume, I could be very wrong, I would assume that you two are to the left politically, and Democrats or liberals or progressives tend to agree with democracies the most. Okay. And so one would have to say, hey, you know what? If the majority wants religious symbols, you should go along with the This is a
no.
The
Constitution is there to protect us from majority rule.
Exactly.
That's the purpose of it, so that you can't have a big group pushing around a small group. That is one of the most essential things about the Constitution.
Yeah.
And that's why it's set up as a democracy. It was set up as a republic, but we've lost that. And my only point is, if we're going to claim to be a democracy, well, then we should be majority rule.
Okay, well then, when slavery was just going out, do you think the South should have said, hey, majority rules, we can have slaves?
Of course not. I'm not necessarily...
Of course not. Of course not.
I'm just pointing out...
The Constitution was there to protect people who couldn't protect themselves by other means. So, again, that's what the Constitution is for, is to protect minorities.
I agree. I totally agree. But I was just...
So then that goes directly against majority rules.
The majority can still be wrong, and often are.
I totally agree with that, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm just making a point. Hey, I love the discussion. I love the show. Thanks for taking my call.
Okay, thanks for calling. He is right. The members of the ACA are, leftward leaning at least. That's certainly not all of them, though. We have Republicans, Libertarians, Democrats across the spectrum. So, again, atheism, lack of belief in a God, any is fair game.
Yeah.
And trust me, we duke it out.
Yeah, coming of course from my background, having been a Southern Baptist fundamentalist Christian for the majority of my life, my political leanings were more to the right, even after my atheism. Yeah. There's been a gradual shift more and more to the left as I analyze each issue on its own.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't like to overly classify myself and throw a bunch of labels on as, liberal, Democrat, Republican. No. It's just, I tend to view things, take each issue individually. Let me get the information that I can and make a decision on it. And the important thing is that the decision is not necessarily final.
Yeah.
If more information comes out later on, I can change my mind. I have the freedom to do that. If there is a God and he happens to walk in the studio right now and strike Ashley dead and say, you better worship me or else, well, guess what? I'm probably going to believe. Yeah. And that's the thing. You can change your mind. If you follow a religious dogma or have certain beliefs, you can't change your mind. You can't have your own opinion on what's moral and what's not, because your morals are absolute in most cases.
Yeah.
There are some religions that aren't quite like that.
Yeah. Of laws and rules that were dictated to you by a higher power. You do not question these. You do not make exceptions to these. These are the rules. And thinking is a bad thing. So that's another thing.
Knowledge is the enemy of religion.
Exactly. I like thinking. It's a lot of fun. So that's what we try and do every now and then. All right, let's go on to Eddie. You there?
Yes, sir. Hello.
Hi, Eddie.
You know what? You guys are very intelligent guys, and I respect you guys. I would like to start off to say the guy in the white shirt. I agree when you guys say atheist. To all the viewers out there, atheist is not a religion. It's just people that are saying that God doesn't exist, and like you said, there's no connected to it or anything like that. And the gentleman that was talking before Stephen, I believe he was an African-American. I'm also an African-American. He sounded, I'm not trying to be rude, but he sounded so shallow, saying, you guys were trying to tell him that, that atheism is not a religion, and I agree with you guys when you say that Christians do try to put their ideology on other people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they're saying that it's like heaven and hell. I have people say the way that you think you're going to go to hell, and I ask them, how do you know? You've never died and been there.
Yeah.
So how are you going to tell me that I'm going to go to hell when I die?
Yeah.
And as for faith, I agree with the guy in the white shirt when he said faith. All faith means is that you're positive about a situation. Faith doesn't mean that it's true. It means that you have, you're positive that situation is true. I hear people say, well, I know God exists because my mother got sick and I prayed and all this was healed. Yeah. But for everyone like that, there's a million people who get sick and they pray and they pray and they pray and they don't get well.
Yeah.
If someone's religious and something happens to them and they pray, automatically they're going to think, well, it must have been God. You know what I'm saying? But they don't think about the people who get sick You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
doctors don't get nearly enough credit as they deserve for the years of learning and education and work that they've put in.
Right.
When all of a sudden they help, cure your grandmother of whatever, and you say, "Fed."
Right.
Sorry, I thank the
I'm not saying that
doctors.
Science it knows everything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like you said, that science has a better explanation on how we got here than religion does.
Yeah.
I'm not saying science knows everything, but I would rather put my faith in, you said the Big Bang Theory. They've shown way more proof. Religion is based on nothing but faith. And I'm like you, faith is not good enough for me. And I hate when people tell me, because you don't have faith, you're a bad person. Of course I'm not going to have faith in something that I think that my paycheck is going to come. But if it doesn't come, I can say, well, I have faith that it's going to come today. It doesn't mean that it is going to come.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I respect you guys, and I wish the world would wake up. But the fact of the matter is, Christians voted for President Bush.
Yeah.
And common sense to me tells me that President Bush is not a Christian, and he's laughing at everybody who are dumb enough to believe that he is a Christian. And it's like we haven't learned a lesson from Vietnam.
Yeah.
We learned a lesson from ancient wars.
Yeah.
That wars don't solve anything. Wars just piss people off and make people want to get at you even more. But we have all these churches. It's been said that the churches are the ones that elected Bush, churches around the United States.
Yeah. And
some of them mean well because they really believe that Bush is a Christian, and they voted for him because of the abortion issue and the gay issue.
Yeah.
But they ignore all the other things about Bush that is evil. We all know. I mean, I'm not saying or Alex Jones is right, but they make a good point when they said that we, just like the guy in the white shirt said, investigate and ask questions, question authority, and people are scared of the truth. So thank you guys very much, and I wish you a lot of luck on this. And all the viewers out there, y'all better wake up.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, it is. The truth can be uncomfortable at times.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a lot of fun.
It was for you.
It was a big wake up call. One of the things that he mentioned that I wanted to touch on was this aspect of memory, which you see a lot of times in justification of when you're trying to evaluate the efficacy of prayer. Well, I prayed and this happened. You're remembering the hits and forgetting the misses, much that the same way people dealing with psychics do.
Yeah.
Those shotgun approach guys, John Edwards or whoever, who I'm getting a B, I'm getting an R. Is it maybe an S? It's Jim, isn't it? That type of thing. You throw enough out there, and you remember what hits, and you forget.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with prayer and any number of other things.
Yeah. I've seen some articles out there on people who've actually gone to John Edwards and those type of shows. They've actually sat in the audience.
Sure.
And they say that the final show is so heavily edited because it's like 4 hours of it. They cut down into half an hour or 1 hour. And so they have tons of stuff that they can cut out. And again, they just get a few lucky hits. Either lucky hits to say, I see something about Disney World, and it's close enough that someone will have something very specific. Or, a relative had a white car. I see a white car. White's the most common color of cars. Who cares? You're going to have one somewhere. So, again, you make vague enough predictions, and you're going to get some hits. So I'd actually do some of that. I know there are things out there on cold reading.
Yeah.
It would be fun to go on as a psychic and say, look, I have absolutely no training in psychic abilities, but then, do a half-hour reading and get amazing things down. Who believe, and then say, at the end of it, look, I have no training, I'm not a psychic, here are the predictions. I can go through them step by step and say, S, incredibly common letter. How many names begin with letter S?
That's why you can get your horoscope online and your astrology charts and everything all done online.
You can do this stuff. Anyway, we've got about 10 minutes left in the show. We're going to take a couple more callers. Quick notes, anyone who's watching. Again, we go to Chili's after the show, cast and crew and such. And that is on the southeast corner of I-35 and 180. Please, atheist-friendly people only. We don't want to go debating and stuff like that over our cheeseburgers. So anyway, that's where we'll be. The show ends at 6 o'clock. We'll be there around 6:45 or so. A couple of quick callers before we end the show. Let's go on to, you there? Brandon?
It's Rich, isn't it?
Okay, it might be.
Hi, Rich.
If you say it's Rich,
Yeah,
sure, we'll believe you.
I'm sorry. The last couple of callers really kind of got my goat, and I had to call back. Sorry.
Okay. What you got for us?
First of all, that last guy, he'd probably agree with what happened with Galileo. When,
Yeah.
You know, his findings and his whole dealings with the church.
Yeah.
And, you know, the suppression of actual information.
Exactly.
And then kind of going back to the whole idea on faith.
Yeah.
When I think it was earlier that when I was 18, I went to college and did a study on religions, major religions, and
Okay.
that's when I got out of Christianity.
Yeah.
Mainly because I realized at one point that faith to me was almost equal to saying I was ignorant or stupid.
Yeah.
And I had to ask myself some questions. Why am I being lied to? Why was the Bible changed so many times? Who was in charge of writing this thing and editing it and then telling me that it was God's word? Too many popes along the way, too many hands in the pot, so to speak, for me to actually have any faith in that piece of literature.
Yeah, one of the old co-hosts on this show a couple years back actually went to a seminary school. He was studying to be...
I did. I was.
You too?
Yeah.
And basically it's the actual looking at all the evidence and reading through the Bible that kind of says, nah, not real.
I left after 1 year.
Yeah, touching on something you mentioned a minute ago about being forced to feel stupid. That's something that, you know, I heard a lot as in that... well, you just can't understand God's plan. You just can't understand what God's saying. You just don't get it. And that always made me wonder, why would God create me too dumb to understand what He's saying?
Exactly.
Well,
the way that I look at it now is, if there is a God, and I'm not saying there is or there isn't, but if there is a God, He did make a religion, and it's worldwide. In fact, it's more than worldwide. It's universal, literally. And it's called physics. So there's a lot of geeks out there that would probably agree with me that, you know, there is a religion out there. It's called physics.
Yeah.
All the axioms of the universe can be found in what we call, you know, the rules.
Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff that religion, and there's still nothing in it that is beyond question.
Exactly.
Which is what religion has, things that you don't question.
We've got more questions than answers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
At this point.
You know, one of the previous callers had mentioned that science has the best answer, and one of the important points is that even if science has the best answer, it's got the best model because it can change the answer once we get new information.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's the way I believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I just kind of wanted to throw that at there was this one other guy who had called, I think, 3 callers back, and I think somebody else actually said that he was kind of shallow, and I said, okay, he would not listen to one little bit of reason, and I was getting kind of upset over the fact that he kept butting in and not giving you guys space to actually explain your stance. You know, so
it's a lot of fun
like that, but we're listening. We're listening.
Okay. All right. Thanks for calling. And again, as I say all the time, we don't expect everyone to agree with us here, but we do expect people to at least think. So as long as you think about things thoroughly, I'm happy. Okay, a couple quick things. Let's go on to Mike. You there?
Yeah, how you doing?
Okay, what you got for us?
I'm going to play the role and get y'all back on the Ten Commandments before the show's over.
Okay.
There was a caller a little while back I think he said his name was Clifton. He was talking about why if you don't listen, then you shouldn't be intimidated by it.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm thinking was, okay, he's a black guy. You could tell, he has a show on Access. I'm not going to call him out or nothing, but he's a black guy. And what I was thinking was, well, if you're not supposed to be intimidated by religion, then these are the same people that would say, take the Confederate flag off the state property, and off the government property. Of course, take the Confederate battle flag off, but also take the Ten Commandments off, because it's the same argument in basis.
Yeah.
Because even though it's not a religious argument, it's still you're putting a belief above that. But it just seems kind of contradictory that if you would have asked him, well, what do you think about the Confederate flag? What do you think his answer would have been?
Yeah. There are some things that this country was founded on and were pervasive extensively in the early days that weren't an idea. Again, slavery's out there. Should we have monuments to slavery saying, we don't practice it today, it's just a historical monument?
Right.
No, we don't need, we don't need that. Even if we grant the fact that our laws did on the Ten Commandments, we were all Christians who founded this country, even if we accept that premise, I can still argue that it's still a bad idea. So if it was founded on Christianity, that was wrong. We should change it.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, just because it was there a long time ago doesn't mean it should be here today.
This whole getting back to the roots movement, as if we got it all right 200 years ago, when we knew a lot less.
Exactly. Let's have slaves. Let's go back to women, making sure that they are just sitting in the house taking care of us. I mean, come on. What's up with this whole New Age work thing that they want to do?
Well, with regard to the monuments, I hate to overgeneralize, but Christians are only in favor of freedom of religion as long as it's their religion.
Their religion.
If I went up to the Capitol and right next to that 10 Commandments, I'd go for something more offensive to drive the point home. A big old red demon with horns holding a baby upside down with a sword through it, as an example of somebody else's religion. I think they'd be objecting.
Yeah.
You can make the argument that that's a lot more extreme than the Ten Commandments.
That's what some people are doing. They got the guy out there, Fred Phelps.
Yep.
Has a website, God Hates Fags or something like that. I mean, he's this incredibly inflammatory and bigoted guy out there. But he actually, I think he got it or wanted to get it, a monument against gays, and it had the biblical passage in there about gays, and he wanted to get this on property next to the Ten Commandments, saying, look, this is another monument to religion. And they said, instead of putting that one up, the other one down, because again, if they're going to promote that religion, they've got to be able to promote other ones too fairly, and that means putting his bigoted stances up there too. So it was good they took it down. Anyway, we have got to let you go. We've just got a couple seconds left in the air, but thanks a lot for calling in.
Thanks.
As for anyone else who's watching, if you got any questions or comments, tv@atheist-community.org. It's an email list that we check, and if we get stuff on there, we will always reply to any emails, good ones we may bring on the air. Actually, I'm in discussion with a guy there. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you very much for Matt coming on at the last minute, literally, and helping out.
It.
Again, if you're watching and you want to come down and meet us, Atheist Friendly People, Chili's, Southeast corner of I-35, 183. See y'all next week.